Well, hopefully Brian Hartline has some ideas, but I guess they don't have to be any too much different from what's been done in the past. Is he adjusting to his new authority?
Yes, it seems like he's very confident in his skin now as the offensive coordinator once again, the job that he held in the 2023 season, although he wasn't the play caller. Now they are aiming for him to actually call the plays in 2025 after Chip Kelly did it this past year, and said he was surrounded with good people then, and is very happy that he is surrounded by good people now. So I think Tyler Bowen's going to be a big part of this, as we've talked about, as the offensive line coach and a former coordinator in his own right. And obviously to have Ryan Day there as well to assist with putting plans together and these kind of things. You can't go wrong. And as Ryan Day said, it's kind of like a 9-year track record now for recruits, transfers to understand that this is what the offense looks like. And these are the rules as he described it. And this is what it's going to look like. And so to me, I think the ball's just going to keep right on rolling. But, again, you kind of start to get that feeling tomorrow, when you're in full pads and the defense is in full pads and you're running plays and, you're probably not tackling to the ground, but, you're thudding up and this kind of thing and getting a feel for what is working and what isn't working and all these other things. So to me, it'd be neat to be a fly on the wall there tomorrow just to see who's really coming to the forefront when they're playing actual football. But I think this has got to be an exciting time. You'd say coming off of a championship that you'd have some complacency, but there are 2 new coordinators, several new assistant coaches, and 15 new starters. So nobody can afford to be complacent. You'll get left behind if you're complacent. So to me, I don't think the 2015 syndrome of, do we really have to do all this again? Really, do we have to do all this again? The grind, as Urban referred to it, may as well just called it the root canal because that's how they played it. But to me, it's kind of a fresh take on things, and so we'll see what direction it takes. And we'll get to talk to defensive linemen tomorrow after practice, and then I think linebackers and tight ends after practice on Thursday. The pro day is Wednesday. We'll see what kind of luminaries come around for that. So this is a big 3 or 4 days right here, and we'll see. Again, as we come out the other end of this, midway through spring football, how it looks.
We will take your comments and questions here at the Voice of College Football. Sam Williams-Dixon. So we talked running backs last week after you guys had spoken to the running backs and Carlos Lachlan as well. So there's so much comparison of the name Curtis Samuel comes up every time that Williams-Dixon's brought up. But is he of that caliber? Well, I guess it's kind of difficult to make that stretch. Curtis Samuel forged an NFL career for quite a few years. But, is there a path for him to be on the field significantly?
Well, right now he's probably he's battling to be the third running back with Bo Jackson. Like those are the 2 guys right now in the running for that third running back. And the thing is, they don't necessarily need somebody that can be a slot receiver because they've got Brandon Inniss and Bryson Rodgers and Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate who can both move in there. So you have to be able to run the ball. As Carlos Lachlan said last week, you also have to be able to pass block. And so I think the comparison that people talk about, because that was the recruiting pitch was we can throw you the ball, we can run the ball with you. I think if you just look at like what Travion Henderson did last year and what he's done throughout his career, I think that's a more apt comparison than a Curtis Samuel because Curtis Samuel would line up in a slot. He played receiver. Travion Henderson only ever played running back, but he caught the ball a lot and he caught it. He would catch on wheel routes. He would screens. I think that's more in line with what you would see from Sam Williams-Dixon. So I think there's a long way to go. He wants to be here because he came back because he never wanted to leave. So he's a year older. He's got a better relationship with Carlos Loughlin now. They're closer, so he's closer to seeing the field, but he's also got some really good freshmen behind him that are going to be pushing him, and specifically Bo Jackson. So it's going to be a tough time. It's a tough battle for that third spot. And then if you are that third running back, that was James Peoples last year, and he carried the ball 49 times in 16 games. So there's not a lot of there for the third guy unless he's closer to the top two. And I think this year that third guy is closer to the top two than a year ago. So maybe there's more hope there to where it's like 120, 120, and 120, like where guys can get 8 to 12 carries a game more than just two guys.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. Because a lot of the talk right now has been about James Peoples. I did a big story on him yesterday about kind of being the heir apparent. And it's, not just one set of shoes. You've got 2 1,000-yard rushers that you need to replace with all that production. And whether it will be primarily Peoples with a little bit of CJ Donaldson mixed in, or whether it'll be an equal load for both those two guys, kind of like Henderson and Judkins had, or as you say, if a third guy can, neck his way in there as well, how great would that be to split it 3 ways? Although then you have the old, well, he's not getting into a groove. You really don't get into a groove until you get to 15th to 20th carries of the game is when you really kind of, get your groove and these kind of things. So I don't know. I'm open to whatever direction it comes out, as long as they can establish the run. And, if they need 2 yards, can they go out and get 3 or 4 yards? That's the question that you really have to come back to, is when you need to be able to run the football, can you do it? When you're in the 4-minute drill, can you, whittle the clock down to 30 seconds? Can you, take all the air out of the ball? And that's what's going to be important for Ohio State running the football this fall.
I just didn't know if there was a guy that you guys have come across that you thought, okay, this guy's a little different this year, or he's got a chip on his shoulder, or something to that degree.
I think Lincoln Keenos is a completely different person than we've talked to before, because, and I've said this on, I don't know if I said it on this show, but maybe on my own podcast, but when you've talked to these guys before, when you talk to like a freshman or even a second-year guy, you can just hear like nerves in their voice. There's some wavering in their voice. Like he's got none of that anymore. And that's, when we've talked to him in the past, it's just, not necessarily sure of everything he's saying, but like now Lincoln Keenos has no issues. And even talking with Julian Sayin in January to now, different kind of guy. The winter that you spend being a leader through the weight room and of the team, and having to talk to coaches and having to talk to teammates, like then talking to media is nothing, almost nothing at that point. But you still do. I mean, you've seen it over the years where even established starters don't necessarily like talking to reporters, but as the quarterbacks, you're going to be talking to everybody, and you've seen these guys become, like more forceful when they're speaking. Even Tavian St. Clair, in a little bit that I got to listen to him, like he doesn't sound like a typical true freshman, but he's been talking with reporters for years now as well. And when you're in the Ohio State sphere, you're not just talking to one or two, you're talking to a bunch of reporters. So he's grown up early in that regard too. So I think those 3 guys, and it's, I don't know how important it is. It's one of the things I wanted to ask Ryan Day, but he was in a hurry today, is, how important is it for these guys to be, as confident as they are, not just with the plays, but with everything else, because like these are 2 different guys than I've seen previously at Ohio State at quarterback. So that's good.
Yeah, I think you made a good point on Keenholz. I thought Tavian St. Clair was very impressive. I really didn't listen in much on Julian Sayin. I want to go back and kind of reread what's going on, and that type of thing. So I don't know. To me, again, this is a new frontier for all these guys, and they have to stand the test of time, and that's stacking one great practice on top of another, and we'll see how they're able to do that.